Alright, so now we're going to talk about ions. Alright, originally we talked about atomic structure, and we talked about how protons change what atom we're talking about. We just talked about isotopes. Isotopes are when the neutrons change. Okay, ions are when atoms gain or lose electrons. Okay? And they are called ions because ions are charged particles. Okay? Remember, just regular old atoms are neutral, and they're neutral because they have the same amount of protons as they do electrons. Ions are what happens when something does not have the same amount of protons and electrons. And they are a different thing, that's why they're called ions. Okay? When we write an ion out, okay, we're going to write the chemical symbol for it. So in this case, I'm going to use sodium here. Sodium is Na. Okay? Sodium loses an electron when it becomes an ion. And so you put a plus here, right? If it loses an electron, it has one less negative charge. So it would become a positive ion because it has lost an electron and now has more positive charge than negative charge. Okay? The same thing can happen on the other side. So let's say chlorine, for example. Chlorine becomes a negative ion, and it does that because it gains an electron when it becomes an ion. Right? That means it has more negative charge than it does positive charge, and so chlorine becomes a negative ion. Right? There are two types of ions, okay, and these two types are important. Okay? There is a cation, which is when they're positive. Okay? And they are usually, okay, metals. Okay? So, cations are usually, they're always positive, and they're usually metals. Okay, and they're also usually on the left side of the periodic table. Anions, on the other hand, are just the opposite. They're negative, okay, so they have a negative charge. They're usually nonmetals. Okay, so that means like gases and liquids, all right, and they are on the right side of the periodic table, over by the halogens and the noble gases. Okay? And so, remembering what is an ion and what isn't an ion is something you're just going to have to learn. Okay? So, I've been studying chemistry for a long time. I can look at the periodic table and I can tell you which one of these is going to be a positive or a negative ion and what charge they're going to be because I've kind of just memorized them over time. Okay? You're just learning this. So, what I suggest is you start to look for trends in the periodic table to help determine ions, right? I've already given you a few. If it's on the left, it's probably positive. If it's on the right, it's probably negative. And there are a few other tricks to kind of figure out what the different charges are going to be. They don't always the same. Some elements get as high as 3 or 4 plus. Some get as low as -3, right? So there are lots of different things that can become ions, and they become ions in different ways. And we can talk about those trends in a different video, but for right now, we just need to remember that ions, okay, are when atoms gain or lose electrons, okay? So we're not dealing with neutrons anymore, we're not dealing with the protons, now it means that the electrons are changing, okay? Like I said in an atomic structure video, okay, electrons are what make reactions happen. Ions are what react. They react with each other and they create compounds, right? Putting two different atoms together to make something new. So it's really important to remember that we're just dealing with electrons when it comes to these.